You're listening to 90 Day Soulmate with the Relationship Engineers, Jim Gulnick and Lisett Guevara, only on LA Talk Radio.
Welcome to 90 Day Soulmate with Lisett
and Jim.
Today we're talking about the hope trap. Everyone talks about hope. Mm-hmm. You know, we need hope. We need hope for a better future. It was probably part of people's campaigns in the past. You know, 20, 30, 40 years ago, there was someone from Hope, Arkansas, and that was part of the campaign, hope. And recently, maybe it was 12 years ago, there was another campaign founded on hope. And so we're going to talk about, is hope a good thing? Is it helpful? Is it like belief? Or it's different from belief? Is it as strong as belief?
It's an interesting topic because you can see two sides of the hope.
You can. Hope has two sides, front side and a back side. The front side looks really good, the back side not so much.
I hope.
So let's move on with our hope trap. So some of the things we're going to talk about. What is hope? What is it? What does it mean? What is dependency? What is reality? What is delusion? Illusion or delusion, sometimes the same. You know, delusion is sometimes you're deluded. You think something, you believe something that's not true. You tell people it's this way and it's not. But hope, the reason we brought this up is that we came across a video on YouTube, and it was the rat experiment. And this has been going around recently and forwarded. It's probably on LinkedIn and YouTube and whatever these other ones are, Instagram. You know, and everyone's like, oh, look at this. And it has to do with rats and an experiment with rats being put into a jar, done in 1950 by a guy by the name of Carl Richter, I believe, in the 1950s. I forgot what institution of higher learning, which sometimes these things seem that they're a little bit crazy and they should be institutions, but some of the stuff they did. I read a lot of articles on this, and today they go, oh, it was so horrible, it was terrible that they did this with rats.
Oh, poor rat.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, you know, if you live in a rat-infested city, you might like, oh, I wish they did that here, now, right now. Get rid of these rats. But this is the hope experiment. We'll talk about that. And what it supposedly implies, how then they applied this to the implication they applied and generalized to humans and human behavior. Because humans are nothing but rats, of course. Mm-hmm. You were talking about something. You were talking about chimpanzees. Mm-hmm. Because we're going to get into this as well. What was this you were talking about?
The chimpanzees.
Chimpanzees, they can be really hostile and aggressive, and then...
Yeah, so the some animal, because we're talking about instinct. So human versus animal, both have instinct. Maybe our instinct can be... transformed by the society, because depending on the culture that you are, depending on the knowledge that you have, your instinct can be a little changed.
So we have our inborn instincts for survival. Mm-hmm. And there's a big survival instinct inborn in us, which can be beaten down by society, by programming, by parents, by culture, by friends, by family, by war. Right? Society, what the politicians tell us, what the government tells us, what our captors.
Yeah.
You know,
so the point in the study is that the human and the animal instinct is survive and reproduce and keep the species in the planet.
But what I thought was interesting, what you said, was that it was survival of the species for survival. But then how come... Let's say a human, how come I'm so friendly and happy want my family to survive, but I will be quickly upset and go to war with someone else's family?
Yeah, because it's when you have the separation, it's not your DNA. and the other people. So the humans see separation. So one of the studies say that you want to keep your own DNA. That is the reason that you protect your family or your kid, because it's the way that you maybe die, but keep going in the planet in some way.
So anybody further away from us than Kevin Bacon, we attack. You know the whole story about Kevin Bacon?
No.
So Kevin Bacon, I believe, is in a movie or something, the 6 degrees of separation, that like everyone is related to everyone else by 6 relationships or 6 intermarriages. If you go back far enough, we're all part of the same family. But as you get further and further apart, your DNA is separate. If you've ever been on 23andMe, right? You've got your siblings, your brothers, sisters, your children, and they're 50% like you. If you've got an identical twin, I guess they're 100% like you. But yet they're different, and you can argue really strongly, right, within your own family.
Yeah.
So, but what we're getting back to this hope and experiment. Let's see what we've got on our chart here. We are going to talk about these items today: death. And what hope does in regards to that. We'll talk about the rat experiment, welfare, and what that implies, how hope is involved in welfare, dependency, and then the ensuing anxiety that I think we've created in ourselves, that I think people are more anxious the more time they have to think. Sometimes people just don't have enough time to be anxious. It's like they just have to do. Sometimes we find the happiest cultures or the happiest people are people who are actively doing things because they're active in something. It's taking their mind off of worry. They're involved with other people, so they don't have time to be anxious and worry.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that because we're going to talk about the work week and shortening the work week and how people get a better balance of life and quality of life and are, quote, happier with a shorter work week. And then we're going to see, is that really true? We're going to talk about people who work at home versus work at the office. When COVID hit, more and more people started working from home. But there's some interesting studies around that as well. It's a really fully packed show, and we really don't know the direction we're going to go in yet. We've got a presentation, but it's just ideas. Here we go. Next thing. So, one of the studies started off by talking about how a couple lived together for many, 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 many years. And as long as they had the other person near them, they were both, very active and very loving and involved with family and friends. And then one of the couple passed away. And it was something like within 15 hours, the other one passed away.
Wow.
So now either they each poisoned each other, which we don't think so, or there was the hope of tomorrow I'll get to see my spouse, and now there's no hope. And this is the piece that they were putting. This was a preamble, somebody's take on how this rat experiment applies to humans. When there's not hope, then people give up, and you can give up and basically just let yourself quote drown in life, not survive. The other was parents of children that got sick and passed away had shorter lives. When I say generally speaking, it wasn't like they all had shorter lives, but there's a higher tendency to not survive as long. And there was the other, which was diagnoses. Remember, we talked about somebody who diagnosed and was given a diagnosis of cancer was more likely to die sooner. And it wasn't of the cancer. That suddenly, given the bad news of you have cancer and it's a tough thing for you and maybe you lose hope, there was a higher likelihood that person would suffer from a heart attack.
And also the emotion. I said emotion impact your healthy. So that is really, really related. I believe that. So you have to watch out your emotion.
Right. So news of others in your family, loved ones, siblings, someone close, your own diagnosis, you losing hope, you losing love, you losing something to look forward to, can cause that. And how do we say, okay, I don't want to lose hope, so how do I avoid putting so many eggs in a basket? And maybe we can't. Maybe we have very close ties.
Yeah, and also the sad history that my friend.
Yes.
And that she have a child. The child was 9 years old. Is diagnosed cancer, and then the grandmama feels so sad. Grandmama, 55 years old, something like that, healthy, and she, then almost 3 months after the news, she died. With people don't know, heart attack, whatever, but that's something. And when the moment that she start to feel sick, she say, I prefer to bring my life for my grandchild survive.
So she thought she could have, like, part of it could be, please take me, not my grandchild.
Yeah.
And then that state of her mind, creating the chemistry, creating
and then she died,
right.
and also, unfortunately, the grandchild died too.
So making deals like that probably doesn't work.
Yeah, so be careful, because this is hope, how work in the dark side can be.
Well, at least, I mean, this is I don't want to say the positive aspect. It's not the positive aspect. But as far as she was concerned, her grandchild survived her whole life.
Yeah, but also maybe she cannot handle see the grandchild die. So it was sad, because the child lived almost 5 years more, but really he died, and was sad.
So going back to hope, she had lost hope that he would survive, and having that lost hope, being devastated, she was devastated as part of the family, and that caused her to pass. And it doesn't mean that everybody who loses hope is going to have a sudden demise in their life.
It depends on the person.
It does depend, but there's a higher likelihood that survival is shortened when we lose hope. That's at least what the theory is. That's what the experiment with rats talks about. The experiment with rats. Let's talk about the experiment with rats.
Okay.
So in the 1950s, Carl Richter, I believe that is his name, probably doctor, PhD, psychology, did animal studies, tried to see what we could learn with animals and see how that may apply to humans. He took a dozen rats. Actually, he had a series of experiments, but the final experiment that is quoted today and is all over YouTube and people make videos about is where he took a set of rats and put them in water individually. They would typically only survive maybe 15 hours with treading water and then drown. And what he did is he watched them, and when he saw one was about to drown, he'd grab it and calm it down, have it relax, and then he'd put it back in the water. And he did this for these rats. And they went from surviving only 15 hours to treading water for over 60 hours and surviving. And this is the video. And the thing is, they now had hope. They had hope that if they kept at it, they kept treading water, eventually they'd be saved. Which we want to have that hope. You know, whether it's a belief, a religion, hope in a better day tomorrow, a government program. If
you know so many also cases, and the people is in the ocean, in the boat, or in the island, and it's away, and the moment they see the rescue, lose the conscious, because it's the moment that you shut down because you are risky, but maybe you can die. So that's other hope. Yeah.
That is another, and let's talk about that for a moment. So that is one of the theories of this. This is another theory, which is, you've heard the story that most accidents happen 2 miles from your own house. 2 reasons for that. You're driving from a long distance, and you're maybe it's late at night, and you're really paying attention because it's a long way to go, and it's stressful. You've been out late, and you're really paying attention, and now you get close to home, and you start relaxing. I've made it. And then you're not as careful, and accidents happen. The other point of it is, most of the travel you do in your vehicle is within 2 miles of your home. So it's more likely you'll have an accident within 2 miles of your home. Both can be true. Both can be true.
Yeah, but I go for the searching about risky people. It's amazing how many people in the moment they want to be
They're
rescued.
just about to be rescued, and they survive up to that moment, and then they die just before being rescued.
Not die, but they always is pass out.
They pass out.
Yeah.
That they just...
Typical. So
Oh, I
the
see what you're
rescue
saying.
people know the person maybe pass out in the moment they found.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because this is a normal human reaction.
Okay, so again, I was trying to make what is that called? A parallel. That you're driving, you get into the town, it becomes familiar, you start relaxing, and you fall asleep while driving, or you don't pay as much attention. So it's a different thing.
It's different, yeah.
But there's I can start to relax now, or I don't have to fight for my life anymore because now there's a rescuer. Which, we talk about the rats living on. There's more to the rat story, which we will talk about when we return on 90 Day Soulmate.
Tired of attracting the wrong type of guy, it was time to give something else a try. She got her computer and started to plan, and created a process to find her man. Soon she went on a perfect date. And then she knew it must be fate. In just 90 days, that is all it took. How she found her match? It is in the book.
90 Day Soulmate is brought to you by 90 Day Solutions. Welcome back to 90 Day Soulmate with Lisett.
And Jim.
Today we're talking about the hope trap. We added the word trap to it because sometimes hope can lead us into a belief that's not true, or a belief that's actually bad for us, bad for a society. It can be that, oh, the government will take care of us. It could be that, oh, it's a human right to have this, so therefore I don't need to do something in order to have this. That hope can be a good thing, but it can also lead us into behaviors that may not be good for our own survival. They may actually cause us to do things that go against our instincts.
Yeah.
Instinctually, we want to survive. We want to survive and save our species. And if we talk about, what is that, evolutionary psychology?
Mm-hmm. Oh, you mentioned.
Oh, I mentioned it. I wanted to mention evolutionary psychology today. Evolutionary, or evolution itself, that survival of the fittest, survival of the species, is that there's an innate want to survive, to procreate, to meet a mate, and that's deep in us. Mm-hmm. And all these thoughts we have are on top of that, and it creates a behavioral filter. It may create alternative programming to instincts. Mm-hmm. Which could be good because maybe some of the instincts we had as a, quote, raw animal are not the best instincts for a civilized society where we're operating in a different structure than what we were originally programmed to operate in, which was, out in the jungle and the wilderness surviving amongst the animals. Mm-hmm. Unless you have the belief that we came from civilized cultures all over the universe, and we never lived with the animals, which I think it shows, if you look back in the records of bones on the ground and DNA, it kind of shows that at least precursors to our DNA were out there in the jungle, in the wilderness, amongst the animals.
Okay, so what is the next?
The next. So the point with the rats was there were other things. They originally took rats, and he had a dozen rats. So his first experiment, he took a dozen rats. I think there were a dozen rats off the street. He just found them on the street. He's like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, leave me alone. And he grabbed the rat, and he took these rats back.
From New York?
From New York. The New York rats.
Okay.
Not the Rat Pack, though.
Okay.
None of the performers were there. But he put these 12 rats in these separate little things. And one of them went down to the bottom, kind of swam around the little bucket, the glass container, and swam back up, and within 2 minutes drowned. Two others did the same thing. Within 2 minutes, they drowned. But then the others lasted for days. They said several days. As soon as we read that, or I read that, and we shared it with each other, it was like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. If rats just normally would last a few days, go ahead, talk about this.
No. So I say in Venezuela, I have experience and see the rat, and and maybe the toilet seat, and you close and you come in the next day and the rat is watching you say hello. So,
cigarette, cell phone, on social media.
It never dies. So that is when I see this, I say, hey, I see for my eyes that the rat can survive a long time in water. So
my theory, here's a couple of things. Let's talk about this, which is, how did he know the rats were about to give up when he picked them up out of the water and then said, oh, it's okay, and put them back in, and then they lasted 60 hours? Maybe they would have lasted 60 hours if maybe he was hoping that his experiment showed that the rats developed this thing called hope, and then they lasted, and he was going, the first sign that it looks like they're struggling, I'm going to grab them because, they're going to die. And the point is that sometimes we have these biases in our actions that lead to the results that we're expecting.
Yeah.
And there were other experiments he did that made this experiment seem suspect. So
it's interpretation.
So
you can interpret it in different way.
The thing that is believable about this is that the story of hope is something we want to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So we want to believe in hope. We want to believe that if we believe in something, if there's this hope, this future, that it comes true.
And sometimes for some people work, because I have other history when the people have really faith and believe something and become strong for some event and can be healthy after any kind of stuff. So some people work, some people not work. I don't say it's not good have hope. You can have hope with action.
Yeah, hope with action. With action. Yeah. You're almost getting to the end of our show at the beginning of the show. All right, so let's talk about, we talked about rats, let's talk about welfare. And the reason I want to talk about that is the whole idea about welfare, and this is what Aristotle said, is that legislators make the citizens good by forming habits in them. That the habits that the legislators, the lawmakers, the politicians who are the lawmakers of the United States or whatever country we're in, are to put habits that lead to societal benefits. And so when we talk about welfare, maybe it is, we want to have a benefit of, we want to keep the society surviving. So when there is a difficult, tough time, we want to help people. And so the concept behind welfare is a positive one. Help people in times of need. And I think universally, welfare, when you have somebody who can't work, somebody unable to work, somebody maybe with a mental or physical disability that prevents them from working, welfare, I think everyone says yes, yes. And there is this point where you say, okay, if we give this welfare too much, too long, too often to somebody who doesn't need it, do they then have the hope of getting a handout of welfare? And so they'll just keep treading water, not even wanting to leave that bucket, because somebody will pull them out, pet them, give them some food, and put them back in. And so they'll be okay scraping along because they have hope. And is it the wrong hope? So I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. There's plenty of situations where it's perfectly good and perfectly okay, and many societies have it. Many different countries, many different cultures have welfare, and it works in different and varying ways. People who are able to utilize it for the benefit of the greater good society. However, we talked about dependency a couple of shows ago, and the cycle of dependency, starting with appreciation. Say that you have a little bit of a problem and you get a check from the government and you say, oh, wow, thank you, I really need this. And they only do it once. Well, you're into that phase of, I'm appreciative for this, and I move back on with my life, everything's okay. But the second time it happens, the third time it happens, you build this anticipation that now I can rely upon this outside source. You get the expectation that it's going to be, the person's going to pick you up out of the water before you drown every single time. So I'll let myself drown. Now, if you talk about that, you talk about people who may be having some challenges in their life, and let's talk about drug use. That there are some people who may be an addict to drugs, can't help it, and there's nothing they can do, and it's really difficult for them to wean off. There may be others who maybe they don't care so much, they could or could not, use the drug, but they know that every time they do, they're saved. So the continuous saving, and we did a show on this. We talked about like the average, there was like certain people that 1 or 2 times needed rehab and they were fine. And that is the perfect case for rehab. But then there were other people who had 10, 12, 15. They just kept going to rehab. Family and others would keep bailing them out, and they keep getting back to that. And it all depends. Is that addiction, or is that behavior? Is that I just learned this, and I learned that if I get into a situation where I can't handle it, it's okay because I'll be bailed out. I'll get help. And again, I want to separate the choice versus the non-choice of that situation. There are some who have the choice, and others that we can argue about choice. But I know from my experience that of friends, family, stories, that there are some people that it is more than just choosing. We'll talk about chemical dependency in issues, and we'll stay away from that because that's not what our show's about. Going from expectation to entitlement. It's a right for me to have a place to stay, a car, a cell phone, food. That I'm entitled. You get entitled, and then dependency.
Ban the country that you burn.
and others are like, I just saw this the other day, and I'm not actually sure what to think because my mind has changed over the years, which was over the years.
Second.
Every second my mind changes. But this was one that food is a human right. Food is a human right. I don't know what that means. Does it mean access to food? Does it mean the ability to get food? Does it mean if I put in a little effort today, I should be able to eat? Does it mean I should just be able to sit here and get fed? And I think you have to look at people who are, mentally, physically, maybe politically or socially not able to do something and get money for food. That's different than you are able to do something. At that point, is food a right, or should you work for it? And what is a right? Is healthcare a right? And maybe part of it is it's a bargain that we have. Do we agree? And going back to Aristotle, legislators saying, hey, you do some effort this week, you have the right then to food, to clothing, to housing, to healthcare. And there's got to be a balance. And again, this is not a political show, at least some of the time. COVID. What did COVID do in the new paradigm?
Do some positive stuff and negative, like every event.
One of the things I do is economy is really good and there's just nobody looking for work. And then the only people who are looking for work, for instance, we get 200 applicants for a position, and then you call them, and only 60 of them return your phone call or talk to you. And then out of those 60, 20 actually have the background that fit the position. You set appointments for them to come in and have a conversation, and out of that 20, 6 to 8 people actually show up for their interview. And you're going, I don't get this. And this is the difficulty in that, is that it's always been, when I say it's always been this way, there's a fluctuation. One, there's a fluctuation of how many people apply, how many answer the phone, how many show up for interviews, how many,
and also the location of the company, the attractive of the company.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a lot of factors.
Yeah. So if you're in a very unpopulated or not highly populated area, it's difficult to find people. And if you're in a highly populated area, you may find lots of people, but like now you go through 1,000 applicants rather than 200.
Yeah.
So it's that. But I wanted to bring up COVID and what did that do? So during COVID, there were workers who went from the office to teleworking. And here's a little bit of a research from Pew Research Center, which does a pretty good job with research. They talked about employed adults who rarely or never worked from home before COVID and are now working from home at least some time, the percent saying working from home has made it easier to balance work and personal life. 64% said, hey, now that I can work from home, it's now easier to balance work and personal life. The second part to that, which we don't always talk about, is that 60% said they were less connected to coworkers. So we only talk about the benefits a lot of times of, hey, I have a better work-life balance working from home. The negative is I lose connection with coworkers. You're a company. A company is an organization. In a way, it's a pseudo family because you have a goal to survive as a company, to grow, to bring in income so you then can feed yourself and your family, have a place to live. So there is a survival piece that we can, with other people, form a group and an organization that helps us survive. We then start working from home. We lose connection with those people. I lose connection with Bobby and Jane and Joey. And so now I don't care so much, like, if my work slips, do I care as much how it affects them because I've lost connection? I'm not saying people have low conscientiousness.
No, but I also depend of the company too. I go back to, for example, the certification body. You never have connection with nobody.
Yeah.
And you keep going working for this kind of company. So
that's true.
Yeah. So sometimes the connection can be reduced conflict because in the office maybe you feel angry with somebody and lose emotion, and really you work from the computer versus you chatting with the people in the cafeteria.
So is it good to work from home?
Depend on the work, yes.
Okay. So it can be good to work from home. It may or may not be. I was watching a video on LinkedIn. It was a TED Talk, and I might have this wrong as far as it being a TEDx or just a TED Talk or whatever it is. But the person who gave it was Juliet Schor. She is from Boston College, an economist and sociologist who promotes a 4-day work week and talks about the benefits, how it boosts productivity and increases happiness. And I watched her talk, and she makes a lot of sense. She makes a lot, like, there is sense to that. If we can get the same amount of work done in 4 days, it takes 5. Why not do it in 4? We have 3-day weekend. Everybody has an extra day of relaxation. We are less anxious. We're happier. The point of it is that it seems instinctually positive and agreeable that this 4-day work week, which, we have hope for now a 4-day work week, which means a 3-day weekend. This is good. But what this hope does, the hope trap part of it, is now we start resenting the 5-day work week because we are hoping for the 4-day. Our current situation is a 5-day. So now I start becoming more stressed at work because I see other countries, other cultures, this person promoting 4 days, talking about productivity increases, talking about happiness increases. And now I'm getting less happy in the current state that I was, and maybe I wasn't unhappy before, but now I'm missing out on more happiness, so now I become less happy. Does that make sense?
And then we request a 3-day work.
3-day work week.
And 4 work vacation.
With all the productivity increases, with technology, with artificial intelligence, why don't we just work 1 day a week? So I hear that. I mean, I hear that. Why do we work at all? Why don't we just let robots and artificial intelligence do everything for us?
We'll have to click the energy.
You get smart other robots. You get robots to take care of robots. Maintenance robots to maintain other robots, and then maintenance robots that maintain the maintenance robots.
And everybody's depressing because don't have nothing.
Yeah, then nothing to do. What do? I gotta go out for dinner again. I gotta go see another movie. Well, who made the movies? Oh, it's all artificial intelligence.
Okay.
We don't have actors anymore. No one has to do anything. We're just all. What is
Listen,
that called?
our show. That's
just
it.
watch our show.
Tired of attracting the wrong type of guy, it was time to give something else a try. She got her computer and started to plan and created a process to find her man. Soon she went on a perfect date. And then she knew it must be fate. In just 90 days, that is all it took. How she found her match? It is in the book.
90 Days Soulmate is brought to you by 90 Days Solutions. Welcome back to 90 Days Soulmate with Lisett.
And Jim?
Lisett reminded me that our goal is not to destroy hope.
Yeah.
It's to question hope, because hope can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing. It's like belief. Belief can be a good thing, it can be a bad thing, right? That if it's done in the right direction, if you have belief that there's nothing good happening in the future, it can be bad for you. If you have belief of a good future, if you have belief of being able to achieve something, if you have belief in being able to earn a degree or get a different job or move to a different place.
It's when we talk about have a vision, and working with your vision is part of the hope.
So hope and belief is good. It's when it fits reality, right? So is it something that's real? Is it possible? Is it achievable? And then can you move towards it by taking action? Mm-hmm. So the idea is not to destroy hope, but to understand that hope can be good or bad, like belief can be good or bad. And it's basically what we make it and then the steps we take. It's what we make and the steps we take. So I want to just go back to the COVID response of working from home or the 4-day work week. And this is where we're saying here's some of the drawbacks. And for instance, if we all can work from home, and when I say all, it's mostly office personnel. We can't really do that if we're in a factory. But we work from home. If we work from home and we can do it anywhere in the world, then why not just outsource what we do to an area that has less economic demands, which mean that we can pay people less as a company? Wouldn't our companies just start outsourcing our jobs elsewhere if they could benefit from it? So maybe from working from home, which separates us from connection with our coworkers, also then allows any coworker anywhere in the world to be able to work with us, which could be bad or good. Maybe, if you look at the good side, it increases the pool of people, so maybe we get even better people in positions, and every company finds the best people worldwide, and then all companies are better.
Yeah.
You could look at it that way, but you could look at it in a different way too, which is all companies look for the least expensive people.
Yeah, but it's a natural evolution of the business and the society. So I don't want to put the word is bad or good. It's for everyone is prepared and set up the system and the company for what happened in the society right now can be successful. Or the company is not prepared, it's not successful. But the issue per se is not bad or good. It's an issue depending on how people handle.
How it's handled, how people react, how people work with it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to not attack the 4-day work week at this moment in time. My challenge with it is that people who can work from home are at odds with people who can't work from home. That's a different situation. I have a factory. I have 80 to 100 people who work with machines that produce things, and they can only produce things as fast as the machine produces them. If they cut their hours from 40 to 32 a week, the machine only runs 32 a week.
Yeah, you have a two shift. So
we hire more people.
The shift they work from Monday to Wednesday, or the shift work the Wednesday to Saturday, and you keep going working with two different groups.
Now I have to hire more people.
Maybe. Or maybe the people say, I like to work all because I want to have double check. And the people start to work 5-6 days like they did in my past. And sometimes I work weekend too, because when we are immigrant, we work in 5 days plus 2 days to survive in the country.
So labor costs go up, which means product costs go up, which means overall the economy, the GDP goes up because things cost more. And we go, oh, look, we're so much more productive a society because our goods produced has gone up. But we're doing it at a higher expense. So there's going to be we're going to equate a little bit of that to inflation. Maybe not. So these are things we're not going to have an answer. It's just things that we want to talk about.
Go back to hope. So what does it mean hope for working 3 days or 5 days? I don't got it.
Well, Well, if it's possible, say it's off, two things. If it's possible for an office staff to work from home, and possible for an office staff that doesn't have machines limiting their production, but has basically the amount of work that they need to do. And if they say, hey, if I can do this in 4 days and from home, well, is it the same work you would have done in a week in the office and you were just dragged, was your time dragged out in the office? That if we're able to increase productivity by doing it in 4 days, does that mean we were more productive over those 4 days, or does that just means during the normal 5 days we were less productive than we could have been? And I'm just saying it could be both. Okay. Again, the office worker who can work from home in a shorter work week versus the factory worker who is, and I almost say this, chained to a machine, and they are basically part of that machine, working with it to produce what the machine can produce. They can't go work from home, and when they're not working, the machine's not working, unless you hire more people. And again, when you have 0% unemployment, which is almost where we are, at 4%, it's almost like 0%, because when you look for a skilled worker who shows up and has a good attitude, it reduces. And again, area of the country is all different. Some areas of the country have higher unemployment. Some countries have higher unemployment.
But again, what is the mean for hope?
For hope is that maybe we can, I don't want to go to the 4-day work week and working from home for hope now. Maybe the hope of the factory worker is, hey, I can learn more, become more technically advanced myself. I can do a higher level position, higher level job, less manual labor myself, allow the machine to do a little bit more work. I can increase my value. I can make more money. So I can go on more vacations in other areas, have more free time. Maybe we do more PTO. Maybe we do more vacation. But we have to know that if we can get more productivity out of a machine and a person who has a higher advanced level, then maybe they can have more time and more time off and balance their life. So there's additional ways of looking at this rather than, what is it, black and white?
Yeah, no, so again, they said the COVID bring, I guess, a different view, because it's some kind, I say, the experiment when you move everybody out to the office. And I interviewed some big company. They say, I don't believe the people working remotely, and 1 year all numbers of productivity is keep the same, and the people is not in the office. So when the experiment work, because you have a system, because you have your reaction and your company is good, you can prove that it's work. And other company maybe not work because it's not prepared for the event. So I prefer pointing the organization prepared versus the employees, because the employee is employee.
Okay. That they have much less to do with what their choices are than what the company does. Yeah. And I guess that goes back to that big sign of demand a 4-day work week, that the companies aren't demanding it. It does have to come from society.
Yeah.
So there's hope in that maybe we all want to have more free time. We want to have better, higher, more lucrative positions where we get to spend more time at home, more time off work. And we all can do it through learning more, increasing our capacity, and activity.
Yeah.
So and that was something we talked about last week. So let's go on to this one, which I sent you a video on. Anxiety versus action. Do you remember this video?
No.
There was a woman climbing down like a staircase on the outside, kind of like parkour. And she was struggling to go from level to level on this staircase, outside of the staircase, so not in it, so outside the building. It could have been 50 feet, and she's going down. It's like climbing. The point is that she was doing a physical activity that was a challenge, and while she's doing that and tightly involved, like she's all in, because it's physical, it's mental, it's balance, it's dangerous, but she's doing this activity. While she's doing this activity, she has no anxiousness about work. She has no anxiousness about, 3 years from now, will COVID come back? That activity versus anxiety. Anxiety is a thinking problem. We're anxious when we think and overthink and think, and we don't do.
So the one of my favorite doctor that I read the book, he said when your mind is so distracted, your level of anxious is high.
Mm-hmm.
So when your mind is focused in the present versus in the past or in the future, your anxious reduce.
Because you're not right. That
is the
anxiety is false projection of what may happen.
Mm-hmm. So you can jump back and forth to the past, to the future, and you are a distracting person. You can become more excited. Anxious,
you know what? And what I just said also. So you can become more anxious when you're distracted about other things rather than what you're doing. But my point about false expectation is that anything that's happening in the future, whatever our expectation is only an idea of a potential outcome. Mm-hmm. So if we're worrying about it, yes, it may be that, but the only way it's going to be that is if we're not doing something right now that keeps it from happening. The only control we have is the now. We don't have control over the future. We don't have control over the past. We have control over now. We all know that.
Yeah, but
right?
the mind is difficult to keep here and right now. So you always jump into, oops, what do we have for dinner today? Oh, yesterday I don't send this email. So control that is difficult, okay? And that is the discipline that you need to have to reduce anxious if you are anxious person.
So what are things that reduce anxiety? Dancing, karate, exercise, song, playing an instrument, being with other people and just talking and having a good time while eating, climbing a mountain, doing a challenge. Yeah. So it's activity, things that reduce your thinking.
Working 5 days per week. Sorry.
Well, again, if you're, if no, just think about that. Is that in working 5 days a week at something that you decide I want to do my best in, and I'm working on this and I'm doing this and I'm busy, I'm less anxious when I'm busy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now when I'm sitting at work and I have nothing to do.
And I'm thinking in Germany the people work 4 days and I'm 5 days I'm here.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
Those people in Germany. I don't like those people in Germany. They get that they get Freitag.
Have better salary than me,
Baby, they get Freitag off.
I don't know what
Freitag, Montag, Dienstag, Donnerstag, Mittwoch.
¿Cómo está?
¿Cómo está?
Señor. Okay.
99.
We are distracted, baby. We are distracted.
That's right. But I'm not anxious. No, I'm not anxious when I'm distracted. This way. Joking, humor, going to shows, going to movies, taking your mind off. It's not the present. It's taking your mind off presently thinking about the future or thinking about the past.
But in the
I wish I had done that differently. Or in the future, I hope this doesn't happen to me. Okay, do something now. Do something now that helps move you towards what you need. So we talked last week about effort.
So you want to share?
I will. I'll share this effort. And I consolidated the slide that the effort that we make on stuff is based upon our own effort. If we lift a weight, our physical and cognitive, so our capacity, our effort to do something. It's force-based. Mediation-based, again, capacities and task performance is that our capacity for doing something will mediate the result and mediate the amount of effort we need. And then resource-based, being able to leverage other people, leverage equipment, leverage tools, helps reduce the effort. Also focusing on the right work. So you can work really hard at something, but do the wrong thing. You know, I'm building a house and I work really well on my walls and I forgot to build the foundation. And now the house crumbles. So doing the right thing first, putting it in the right order, the right steps. It's almost like cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah, you go.
You have starting here, I want to get here, but what do I need to do first, second, third? How do I know I'm achieving those things and getting to my goal? And as you see yourself moving towards your goal in activity-based efforts, you've lost your anxiety. Yeah. You're anxious about stuff when you're not moving towards a goal and when you're not doing activity. So that's actually our summary, I believe, which is here. The solution to the hope trap, hope being good or bad, To make it good is focus on activity, raising your capacity towards the goal that you want to attain. Stay busy, enjoy life, enjoy it with others. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next week on 90 Day Soulmate with...
You're listening to 90 Day Soulmate with the Relationship Engineers, Jim Gulnick and Lisett Guevara, only on LA Talk Radio.